Hey guys, this is Janjua. I'm the leader of the R.E.P Knights, and this is Thor, our amazing podcast. Movie reviews, gaming reviews, and more. Today is a really great episode because we have our hands on the new Sony PS5. So we got our hands on the console, we had a chance to actually check it out, and it was a really good piece of kit, so stay tuned for another great episode. Alright peeps, welcome to Thor. Now this is a special episode because we've got a hands-on with the new PS5. So what we're using... Yeah, PlayStation. So let me welcome Z, my co-host.
What's up people? Welcome to the House of R.E.P. Make sure you give us a like,
subscribe, and also share. So basically... we got our hands on the PS5. Yeah. This is the fifth generation of the Sony's gaming systems. Really pioneering stuff from them with this new SSD, this new hardware configuration, this new console design. Let's talk about the actual presentation. So when the box arrived, this is the Blu-ray drive version that we're looking at and we're reviewing here, not the digital edition. So I know that the digital edition will be slightly lighter, and you personally, Z, like it better, right? Without the little bump of the drive, right?
Yeah, when I look at the PlayStation 5 digital edition, obviously it comes in a black box, not a white box like you get with the Blu-ray version of it. So I think it just looks slightly, when Sony showed off the console reveal finally, like a couple of months back, you could see that it looks more asymmetrical. It looks much more fluid, the shape. But I don't mind the one with a little bump on the hard drive. I mean, it's a very small disk drive.
Yeah. So basically, if you like digital gaming and having a library of optical media, you know, if you're a bit of a collector, it's just better to have both options, plus having the Blu-ray player, because it saves shelf space. You don't need to have like a cluttered system, you know, you don't have to have multiple Blu-ray players. You can take your PS3 or your PS4, if you've already got those, down to a different room or somewhere else, you know, and that's what's really interesting about this, is that one thing I've got to really say about the console is it boots up fast.
Oh yeah.
Like it really boots up fast. The new UI is amazing. The intro... you know, the kind of intro video that plays?
Blink and you miss it.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So it's much faster, even though the PS4 Pro, the thing is that PS4, the original one, was really nice looking. You know, this kind of sandwich version, the PS4 Pro.
Sideways wedge.
It's sort of taken a little bit more of a beating than the... it's a little bit more robust than the PS4. I found that the PS4 was a little bit... sort of sensitive, like it burnt out after a little while. Like I was playing Metal Gear Solid and we got like a sort of like a B-sword or something with it, so we had to retire that one because it just wasn't, we weren't able to repair it. Whereas the other console, the PS4 Pro, that one's hasn't been giving us any problems at all.
No.
Yeah, so it's still a great console. We play Mortal Kombat on that one a lot. Now looking
which we'll do in a later R.E.P. Kind of Thor episode.
Yeah. We'll talk about Mortal Kombat in detail because it's gotten to its like most kind of ultimate version. Yeah. 11 is quite a good game. That's also a good game to test on here. There's a way that you can upgrade it and stuff. So we're gonna look into that.
So now with this hands-on, we've got kind of like two games to kind of test on the console. We've got Astro's Playroom and Spiderman Miles Morales, which looks like an awesome game.
We intentionally, went with the decision to try out Miles Morales first because, number one, Miles is a wicked character, another great Spider-Man to the universe of Spider-Man, and also it's a great sequel, like a complete sequel from Insomniac, who are like one of the best gaming studios out there right now. So
the timing is good.
The timing is great.
The Spider-Verse film was fantastic.
Plus, it's included as a kit with that same kind of like animation style, so that's cool. Really fun to play around with. Because if you pick that version of Miles, then it will have that kind of retro kind of like scratchy kind of animation stuttering effect that they built for specifically for the movie. They've done some great stuff with the Spider-Man franchise, like the original Raimi films were good. We'll be doing different House of Reps on that. The Amazing Spider-Man franchise was also different and unique by Mark Webb. And then going forward with like the new Tom Holland films for the MCU, they've been very good at bringing Spider-Man to the MCU universe, and they've like taken it very seriously, and it's going very well. And you know the games are excellent in their own right as well, and in the Into Spider-Verse universe. So Sony have a very good franchise when it comes to Spider-Man. Going to the actual console, you know, like the box presentation when you pull it out. It's got that same kind of lapel style push out that happens on the PS4. So be careful of that. If you're a collector, you don't want to rip the actual box itself, you know, when hurrying to bring it out. It's got two kind of styrofoam wedges which will hold the console in place along with a cover to kind of protect the console. But once that's done, you're pretty much got the entire console, and it is a beast. It feels like a little mini tower, and it's very slick looking. Those you know, those kind of plastic casings that it has, you know, that the collars, the collars or the fins, you could call them, yeah. So the fins that it has, you know, are wonderful. They're very, very, very well designed. I love the kind of like the heat kind of like venting design that they have. Funny thing though, the way you put the Blu-ray is the other way around. So
so don't fall for this mistake like I did.
Yeah, because he put it backwards. I thought he jammed the disc inside. Yeah, so that made me laugh.
I put when we were testing the console and we were getting a first hands on, we had to put the disc in, and I accidentally put the disc in upside down.
Yeah, thinking it was
that way.
Because
the console was upright.
Yeah.
So when the console is vertical, people, you got to be aware that you're not putting the disc in wrong.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the console won't read it.
Yeah, which is funny.
And tell them about the stand.
Oh, the stand was hilarious because, like, you know, the stand. We were wondering where the screw was, and we were like, did we not get a screw? And then so what you do is you twist the stand. And then inside is the magnetic screw that you can pull out. It's magnetically inside the actual stand. So you can change the orientation of the stand to how you see fit. You can have a vertical or horizontal setup, but it suspends the console. So the stand is designed to hold the console so it looks like it's floating in the air, kind of. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
I don't think Sony want you to put the console flat on the surface.
Yeah.
Because I think it might vibrate too much, or it might topple over.
Yeah, because of its kind of bump design.
The console's got a certain kind of weight to it. It's not. It's a bit of a tank.
Time will tell how the actual stand holds up from the rigors of that weight. I hope. I'm no doubt they've stress tested it, but you know, like it's early days. When you've put it vertically in tower mode. I don't think you'll have any problems, and it's good for cooling and kind of like venting and stuff. So you know you'll be okay with putting it on a carpet or a laminate. You know, if you don't want to put it inside a infotainment, you know, cabinet or something. You know, like a TV cabinet or on the wall or something.
But setting it up and booting it up was really easy. I mean, it looked awesome when it booted up.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's got all these accent lights on it, which are really nice. That's a nice throwback to the actual controller itself. So what it will do is when it boots up, it will have that kind of indigo, violet kind of PlayStation colors, you know, that we're used to, and then it will be running silent in this white glow. And the console is quiet. It is really quiet.
Yeah, so quiet.
Yeah. And the other thing that I want to say that's really good news, it has a much better Wi-Fi adapter built in. Downloads are faster. It's utilizing better the internet. You know, the fiber optic.
Yeah. So if you're
setup.
fortunate to be in a well-versed kind of broadband fiber area, you will benefit definitely from this console's 5 gigahertz antenna. And you will start to see speeds like you see on a mobile phone, or whether you have a laptop connection with that kind of newer Wi-Fi adapters. The Sony PlayStation 5 has the newer adapter that will give you better speeds and better fidelity for downloading your library, whether it be your old PS4 library or the new PlayStation 5 library.
Which I have to say is going to be stellar. You've already got Godfall. you know, the remake of Demon's Souls. You've got that new version of NBA 2K, which looks really realistic looking. You know, the Dirt 5. I mean, like the fluidity of this, the ray tracing. I mean, we can't wait to see an 8K rig with this. Right now it's 4K, you know, so stuff will roll out in the future.
Might be a patch later to get it.
Yeah, they're just rolling it out when it's available. Even Microsoft themselves have started supporting like different types of TV formats. So like, you know, they're saying that their console's going to look really good on OLED, whereas Sony have said it's going to look really good on their full array.
Right.
They've made one specifically for the higher frame rates called the XH90. And that's an excellent TV. You know, it's a very, very, very good colors. It's got a great processor, very smooth. So it's a good, you know, like recommendation to pair them.
But that being said, I mean, if you have a decent LED or OLED
or a QLED even,
or a QLED, so many LEDs. If you have a decent sized TV, whether it be like 40 inches and bigger, you will get a decent experience out of the PlayStation 5. You don't need to run off to the shops and buy another
buy like a 5K, 8K TV.
Because realistically, you're going to be playing these awesome games which have been mastered at 4K, at a 4K resolution, and the PlayStation will do its best to either run it at 60 frames or 120 frames, wherever the game permits it to do it.
And with 60 you're going to get more detail, and then with 120 you're probably going to get more speed, but lose things like, you know, critical ray tracing and other kind of detailed elements that can really make the game shine. So you might want to think of that if you're mostly like a shooter player or like an esports guy who wants, you know, 8K speed, then, you know, you'll have a graphical compromise, you know, so that's just something to be aware of going down the line. But
we've seen it, like Marquez did like a rough 8K test with something he was doing Forza, and then also we want to see what Digital Foundry guys find out as well.
Yeah, because Digital Foundry are like some of our favorite guys, you know, like we've been following them since the early days, and also with Marcus when he first started, you know, when he came off of his pro frisbee scholarship, you know, and then he started, you know, I remember when he used to have his like, you know, cereal boxes in the back of his dorm room, you know, before he started moving into his studio. So it's brilliant to see people grow. We're hoping also that Thor grows like this, you know. It's humble beginnings, but you know, it's a great way for us to keep connected with everyone out there. And that's what I love about Thor as a filmmaker and director, and also a, you know, a gamer and a tech enthusiast. You know, I love to just talk about these things. These are some of my passions. So, you know, this is one of the reasons why the show exists, and I'm really happy I'm able to like talk to you guys about this stuff. I'm in a very privileged position. So, going to the controller, very nice design, better weight. The distribution is nicer in the hand, so the way the boomerang kind of you know, like what I would say is the kind of arms of the actual controller, they sit very nicely in the palm.
The boomerang that was
it feels very similar to that weird boomerang prototype that we saw. I was like, who's gonna chuck that at robbers or something, right? It's so funny, like it doubles as like a batarang or something. But this controller, I love the two-tone design. What they've sort of kind of like kept is the kind of positioning of the analogs. The analog area feels like it's something that, you know, Sony were thinking, okay, it's not broken, so we're going to keep it. So that black part is still very similar to the DualShock. Is this the DualShock 4?
Yes.
Yeah. So the DualShock 4 and this are very similar. The changes, you know, become more apparent when you look at the raised D-pad. It's got this kind of crystal effect, which is very good. And then the buttons are also got this crystal effect, but they feel very nice.
Yeah, they
very
they
tactile, very premium. That's a great point. Also, it's just very fast when scrolling and tapping. And I know that this is going to be a really good controller for me because I love my beat 'em ups, and me and Z are pro like beat 'em up players. So we mostly like, you know, duel with ourselves, and we've been playing since like the early Street Fighter 2. Kind of early Mortal Kombat days, so like, you know, we constantly play Injustice, DOA 6, DOA 5, Tekken, Mortal Kombat, you know, like Dragon Ball Z Fighters.
Do you think they've decreased the latency on this
controller? It feels a lot faster. So like, and also another interesting thing is that as soon as the controller was sort of booted up with the system, it went through an update, so you can actually update controllers. So I'm thinking that these are mapping configurations, timings, and other things to try and tweak the controllers, capabilities and compatibility.
Or maybe even to increase the battery life.
Possibly
like,
as well.
The battery life was sometimes horrid on the DualShock 4.
That's a very good point. Stress testing the battery life on this is something that I'll be looking into and seeing in the long run, because I have to say that when you compare the DualShock 4 with an Xbox One controller, which is still my personal favorite controller right now to use when I'm playing games, it's just got a longer battery. So basically I will rotate batteries with a charger, but they will last for like days, not sessions. So that's something to take into consideration. I think what happened is that Sony wanted it to be very light.
Yeah.
So when they wanted the DualShock to be very light, they compromised on the actual capacity of the battery to make it lighter. But the new DualSense is heavier. So I'm thinking it's got a slightly beefier battery to compensate for the haptic feedback triggers and the other kinds of power with the rumble. So it should be better overall.
No,
and
those features are
very good, because when you boot up Spiderman for the first time, you can actually feel the train moving.
That's it.
And whenever you kind of thwip the web or whatever, whip out that webbing, you actually get the feeling that you're doing it. Plus, the game is still brilliant. Swinging around the city still seems amazing, and doing it with Miles is just as good as doing it with Peter. It's great. It's just it's a very awesome game. They're both very cool. I think that these are beautiful launch titles because they really get to show off the kind of quality of the console. It's kind of business as usual because on 4K, the console just feels like you've kind of just gone forward one generation. So there's little detail increases in fidelity and also the graphical power. But if you already have a PS4 and you're jumping to a PS5 and you still got a 4K rig, you're really not gonna notice a massive graphical difference. It's more about just kind of getting ready for the next generation. So because this console is gonna be supported for the next decade or so, you're really gonna see the console pushing its limits probably in the third or fourth cycle of games, because that's kind of tends to be a trend where once developers get used to the hardware, they really push it to its max. Yeah, especially when engines change as well.
It was like that E3 that we had 2 years ago, where you were getting to the end cycle of PS4 and PS4 Pro games, Destiny, Uncharted, God of War. Those were games that were pushing the console.
Yeah, God of War really pushes the PS4 Pro.
It was they looked amazing, those games. They were really fluid, lovely looking, and really pushed the PlayStation system.
Yeah, even Ace Combat looked amazing. Yeah, I'm a big Ace Combat fan, so seeing Ace Combat back in the Strange Real universe is very cool. Very good to go back to those kind of fictional countries and those fictional worlds. Now, the other one, Assault Horizon, was good, but it had that rail element to it where you chased people, which I didn't like so much because it kind of forced you to go into that kind of dogfighting mode. And sometimes that took you away from the quality of your flying and stuff because you were stuck on a kind of rail system. It was very energetic and very kind of engaging, but in my Ace Combat reviews that I'll do, I'll go into detail about that because I've been an Ace Combat fan for many years. So I'll go into detail about those worlds and stuff, and very cool. So, yeah, the controller, nice stuff. Integrated microphone. They've replaced the button on the top, so the PlayStation button is now a PlayStation logo instead of a rounded button with the logo within it. So I do like that.
I was kind of hoping it would be slightly whiter, to contrast.
See, now that's a design feature that I would have welcomed.
Because it's just dark.
Perhaps even that crystal design. Maybe they might redo it. Maybe if they make a version 2, they might make it crystal to differentiate it. But having a microphone built in is very useful. Having ports to plug in your headphones is useful. So if someone doesn't want to spend too much on a beefy headset, they can do that.
You can also get a headset, isn't it?
Yeah, and you can plug in other headsets, there's a lot of fidelity and freedom with this, which is really good.
The remote is quite good.
Yeah, so the media remote also is something that, is really nice. nice. It's got this pebble design. It feels like a pebble stone in your hand. It's very, very light and just very easy to use. So, you know, what more can I say? It's a very good media remote. Just does what it needs to do. Especially if you love films and you don't want to like accidentally drop your controller. You want to take care of it. You can just keep the remote around with you because, you know, on the sofa, you know, it always might fall or get lost. So it's best to have a remote instead. Yeah, so 4K playback is very smooth. It's just like basically what you had before on other Sony Blu-ray players. Sony have some of the best Blu-ray players on the market, so they're really good. Like, it's a great kind of movie player. So that's got a high rating from us. Games wise, Miles Morales is gonna be really good. We're not sure if we're gonna do a separate review on it, but right now we can say that this is one of the leading titles that you should use. And you also get a remastered version of Spider-Man. So if you didn't get a chance to get your hands on it and you heard about Spider-Man but you didn't get it on the PS4, you can now play a slightly better version of it. But in the eyes of some fans, it's debatable because the character model and actor have changed, and also some of the times of day and the kind of like where the game starts is a bit different. So that's very interesting. But still, you know, like, a free game is a free game, so try it out, man. It's something I could have done some good stuff with it, so we'll try that one out and see how it goes. But in the meantime, I'd highly recommend Miles Morales. It gets about 4 shields from me, just if I mini review it now, for its visual story and you know, flow. A very, very high quality game from Insomniac. You know, I would expect nothing else less from them. They're a very good studio. And
the solid state on the console is about 825 gig, isn't it?
Yeah,
but so it's a bit less when you actually see it booted up.
When it's booted up, after all of kind of its updates and stuff, it's about 600, I think. Yeah, you know, is left over. So storage is gonna be a bit of an issue for people who heavily rely on a digital library. Yeah. But because, you know, we tend to uninstall games that we don't want to play anymore, you know, on most of our hardware, if something gets old and we've kind of finished it, we tend to get rid of it until we want to kind of nostalgically play it again. So we'll just, you know, like, I would think that once they unlock the external ability to plug in hard drives and solid states, that storage issue will be a thing of the past, you know, because it will interface very well with another solid state, I guess, to make load times fast and stuff.
The user interface is a lot different now to what you saw on the previous PlayStations. You've obviously got a new bar that pops up when you press the PlayStation button, and at the bottom you've got the home, the messages, the notifications, who's online, like your friends and stuff, battery life, your ID, your PSN ID, and the power button to turn off the console or put it into rest mode. I would say never put the console into rest mode, otherwise you may regret it. So that's just a tip from us. Yeah. Try to leave your console on or off, whether you're playing or not playing.
I don't like these kind of things like rest modes and resume modes and stuff. I feel that they're unnecessarily taxing on the console when you want to keep the console for a long time. You might as well just keep everything traditional, but that's my own personal opinion.
Yeah, because like, old consoles just you used to turn them on and off. Yeah. Like proper retro consoles.
Like blowing into cartridges.
Work, cartridge, work!
That was just silly because, like, you know, that's not the way you freaking clean them. Yeah. But I remember that. You know, I remember this like silly rumor that they were saying that like they were going to bring cartridge media back, but the cartridge media would be solid state style.
Well, so, you can always. There's this funny clip I've seen online on YouTube. You guys can find it yourself. About a guy buying a knockoff PlayStation Pro, but it's called the GS4 Pro.
Is it? What's that? Tell me about this.
I've never heard of like a knockoff SNES.
Okay.
But it looks like the wedge-shaped Pro.
Okay.
But it's like super light and super plasticky looking.
Okay.
And it comes from China somewhere. I don't know.
So it's just some kind of like...
It's like a bad knockoff.
Yeah, like just something like one of those kind of cheap consoles for somebody who doesn't understand, the
Gaming,
console world.
or
this one's
like a parent who doesn't.
Is it like a kind of Android-based thing?
No,
like
there's no Android. It's the basic 16 8-bit gaming.
Oh, okay.
With the cartridge
all right. Okay. All right. So that's very interesting. That's
so going back to the PlayStation 5, you've got like one game that comes pre-installed on the console is Astro's Playroom, which is made by Team Acebo. Now this game is quite a nice demonstration. I wouldn't call it like a glorified demo because it's not that. After kind of playing through it for about half an hour to an hour, this is a very cool game made by the developers to kind of showcase the history of the PlayStation console, and it's almost like a swan song to previous generations of Sony consoles,
or like a Valentine letter.
Yeah, it's almost like a love letter,
like a tribute.
Yeah, and it has some amazing features to show off the console's capabilities. It runs really smooth. It runs at 4K at about like 60 frames or 120 frames, and it has some really nice features in terms of how you use the controller. You control the little character in Astro's Playroom, and there's some really nice features with the touchpad, and you kind of blow into the controller to kind of
kind of like the
fans
Switch,
work
right?
and stuff.
Like the Switch had that.
Yeah, it acts a bit like the Switch. So you use the motion sensors and the adaptive triggers, which are really lovely when you're using the jetpack in the game, because you can control the sensitivity of the thrust, and that's really cool. And these buttons feel amazing when you're actually playing the game.
I've yet to play Astro's Playroom, so I'm eager to try it.
So when you play it, Ray, you'll see it and you'll feel it. And also you kind of talk into the mic and you use a touchpad to flick him, like in the Slingshot.
Oh,
so you
cool.
use a touchpad to fling him into the slingshot.
That's what I love about the touchpad.
So it's great. It has its purposes, and I would love more and more developers to embrace the capabilities of this controller, because it was sorely lacked on the DualShock 4.
Yeah. Plus, the Vita too, because the Vita was a very powerful console, but just the kind of memory system, lack of the titles, and they had a massive trackpad on the back that you could use.
Like
I don't know. It was just a strange kind of.
It was like over-engineered.
A little
console.
Yeah, a little. I mean, it was nice
compared to the PSP.
But
because I love the PSP.
See, the PSP was really cool because the reason why it was so successful. I would give the PSP like 4 shields, because it made you have like a PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3 kind of S console on the move, and people didn't really kind of like originally realize how useful that was. Like people could play games that they really loved, and this is where the handheld market kind of like started getting strides again, because you had the Switch, but I never embraced the first generation of the Switch because I thought it was very cheaply made. I mean, in its design, and I felt like what they did is that during that kind of recessionist kind of like period, they were just like dumping prototypes out that were because if I remember correctly, this came out during that kind of like recession-y time.
Well, yeah, you had the DS, then you had the 3DS.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the original DS. That was like an ugly console. That grey one. That I was instantly turned off by the design. Even the 3DS, I resisted to get. Like, they were making too many.
Yeah.
Too many iterations of it, where they got to the 3DS and the final
like Game Boy.
the final DS is basically where it should have been from the beginning. But the concept of the Switch is a very good idea. How it can switch from a home console to a handheld. That's always been brilliant, and
Nintendo always liked to do that.
That's very good. They should have designed certain elements better, like the way the cradle goes into the actual. The home base, because it was scratching people's screens and other things like that. It needs a redesign before I'll consider kind of embracing it, because I've actually...
But then, on the other hand, I prefer this system with more haptic feedback and motion control in the controller alone.
Yeah.
I don't mind putting the console over there, and I'm not going to carry I'm not going to carry a PS5 or a PS4 Pro, lug it with me like that.
I would, what I would prefer is that if handheld doesn't die but it retires, And what you do is you have a phone or you have something that you've invested in, like a tablet, and all this remote play.
Yeah.
This ecosystem of remote play, PlayStation Now, this subscription-based gameplay, it becomes the norm as the internet gets faster, because you want to be able to access that on the fly, like you can with movies. Like I can access Netflix and Amazon wherever I am.
Yes.
So if I'm traveling and I'm in a hotel, I can just log into my Netflix account and watch something. So what I want to do is I want to do that with the games too. I want to be able to launch my Steam library, like Steam are throwing out remote systems. Like these guys are Xbox are moving into it, PlayStation are moving into it. I've yet to try remote play. I've heard that you can actually kind of like bridge PS4s as well. So if you had a PS4 somewhere else, like if you were like at your cousin's house but your PS5 was on at home, you could somehow remote play the PS5 through the PS4 at 4K. So
that's cool.
So I don't know if that's actually going to happen, or if that's a concrete feature that can happen, but remote play is already sort of like ready to go, kind of. We've yet to try it, but it's in the menu. So you've got PlayStation Now, you've got remote play.
Yeah.
So
you can use PC, Mac, Android, or iOS to connect it.
Yeah. So basically what they're trying to say is that you can use your console right now to connect to another PS5 or another PS4 and bridge it. So I'm just wondering what they mean by that. I've yet to really kind of dig into it. I'd also like to try it on the computer, because if I can access the PS5 from the computer, and I'm somewhere else, then just it's very interesting to have that liberation, like to have that liberation from the home console. You just keep it on, keep it connected, and then you're okay. Long-term kind of like sort of like reliability of that system and the wear and tear it can put on the console, that remains to be seen, because this is early days.
I would also say is that when we're looking at the console, is just be careful of the white. Like it can get discolored very easily if you're not careful.
Most white consoles will discolor over time.
Yeah, because like
it's
we
just
used to see that with the
is.
Dreamcast and
that
Wii,
kind of yellowing
Nintendo
that happens.
Because
when you see like second-hand consoles on the market, that kind of, like
oxidizing.
I don't know what it is exactly. I don't know if it's like, when you're cooking something, or like it's something in the air, but it bonds to that plastic, and the plastic kind of ages and gets a little bit of yellowing to it. It's kind of like, when books start to get worn out, even book covers.
But I think maybe Sony have factored that into the plastics and the quality of the materials to make the console more sturdier and more durable for those kind of things.
Plus, the fins can probably be changed, because I remember there was a company that was going to do them. They were going to make custom shells, and people were pre-ordering them like crazy. And then Sony stepped in and said, "Look, you're infringing our copyright. You got to shut the store down." Because I think that's what they're going to do themselves.
Okay,
they've probably got this ecosystem of fins and accessories that you'll be able to change. Yeah, so maybe what they'll do is, I remember you could change the face shield on the 360, which was fun, because I remember my friend Shiraz got me a Ghost Recon one, which was a really nice birthday present. I still remember that one fondly. Unfortunately, I had to retire that console because I got the red light of death for the final time, and it just wouldn't recover. So
so let's give a verdict, bro, on the PlayStation 5.
Okay, so PS5. For me, it gets a very solid 5 right now. Very happy with it. Awesome. 5 for 5. Basically, because I've been like a Sony fan for a long time. Like for me, my pinnacle consoles that I really loved growing up were Sega. And then when Sega kind of retired from the console market, it was Nintendo 64. Then when the PlayStation 2 came, it really, really, really cemented it for me. I loved the PlayStation 1, don't get me wrong. But Metal Gear and all these games were like, titans of yesteryear. But the PS2 had a beautiful library. Like an amazing library. And then I switched over to the 360, because when you played like, when the PlayStation 3 came out, when I used to see like certain games compared to each other, the hardware of the Xbox was better. So when I had like the Microsoft Xbox and the Microsoft Xbox 360, games like DOA, they ran faster than they did on the PlayStation. This was like a weird personal thing for me. and there was a select number of games that we had on the PS3. Like the PS3 was quite an expensive console when it came out. You know, we had the piano version of it, and that didn't really last long.
I think the PS3 kind of hit them hard, and they realized their mistakes.
Yeah, I think they made a big mistake with that big one.
Console,
yeah,
PS4.
Because the piano style one with the kind of piano black, I call it, the Fat Boy. The Fat Boy basically just doesn't have the same kind of, I guess I would say, build quality as a Slim, because my Slim has lasted forever. You know, the thing's a tank.
Yeah.
Like, it's had so much Blu-ray playback, but something happened to the other one. It just stopped reading and writing discs, and also started overheating, which was something that I was quite surprised to get from such an expensive console. You know, so that was one of the things that stung me a little with Sony, and I took a step back from them for a bit. I was like, come on, Sony, what are you doing? You know, but when the PlayStation 4 came out, they totally redeemed themselves in my eyes.
Totally redeemed
Yeah,
themselves.
exactly. Even though, touch wood, the PS4, the first one, you know, like the not the ice cream sandwich one, the PS4 Pro, the regular wedged one, which is, I love the Black design wedge. Still to this day. Yeah, that one messed up. Yeah. So that one also messed up.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's like where the retailer, like where you get it from, because that one was from Amazon. So I don't know if their like stock is a bit kind of like mashed up or something. I heard some weird stories in the news for people who like pre-ordered it from Amazon. They're getting like flour and like rice, and people are like nicking them and stuff, you know.
Well, we're gonna say now that all these scalpers, they need to just stop that crap.
Yeah, we need to drop. I want to drop kick the hell out of those guys with their scalper bots and stuff. I hope you guys have a hard time, you know, shifting these walls of consoles that you have, and Sony and everyone just keep shelling them out, because I hate people who scalp and try to deprive somebody of stuff. You know,
I would personally kind of give, in terms of my verdict, I would give the console like a 4.5.
4.5.
Only because this is like a hands-on with the PlayStation 5 that we have, and it will only be a matter of time before I know how good and how awesome this console will be. But so far it's pretty awesome, and it's pretty well worth it in my opinion.
Great. Yeah, so I want to thank you guys for listening to this episode of Thor. You know, it's always great to, you know, see those views, see that stuff growing. Just please like, subscribe, and share this episode. We're gonna be on Anchor, Radiocast, you know, all those kind of places.
Spotify. Check us out on there.
We're everywhere.
We appreciate your likes on Apple Podcasts
and on YouTube. Check out YouTube channel.
Yes, definitely. We appreciate all your support. And
these episodes are a little bit earlier than the YouTube, because the YouTube was grown after, so there's a kind of delay. So we're on episode 8 on YouTube, but here we're on episode 31 and beyond. So if you want to like stay current, you know, subscribe to like the podcast, and then you'll have all the new ones. But if you want some beautiful visuals to like the podcast, then just watch it from episode 8 onwards. It's up to you. You can play catch up or revisit old podcasts that way. So yeah, I mean, this is like your host, Ray Janjua. I want to thank you again for listening to this episode of Thor, aka the House of R.E.P, and I want to thank my co-host Z for joining me.
No worries, bro.
All right, and happy gaming, guys. You know, if you manage to get a PlayStation 5, enjoy it. If you haven't got it yet, you know, a little bit of patience, you'll get your hands on one, and you'll enjoy it. Just game on. Yeah, exactly. So cool, guys. See you on the next one.